Hey, it's your open source advocate, and I am back with another open source opportunity for you. So this week I want to talk about an HTTP reverse proxy tunnel. Now there are a lot of these out there, but I like this one in particular. If you've ever heard of n-grok, then you'll know kind of what I'm talking about here, but if not, let me explain what this does. So I show you lots of ways to run your own servers out on DigitalOcean, which is awesome. I love DigitalOcean and actually use it for the server piece of this. But I don't always want to pay for a server to have something ongoing and running, and especially when it means that I'm going to have to do that for something I'm developing at the time. So I've got some kind of program that I'm working on. So I'll kind of show that during this video actually. I want to be able to test it, and I want to be able to test it from anywhere. And actually this comes in handy. I have an application that I was developing that had a mobile piece to it, and from the mobile device, whether it's iPad, Android, iPhone, whenever you go to use a web application and you want to use the geolocation API, it requires HTTPS, so a SSL secured site. The issue was that I was just running localhost 3000. I could point to my local IP on my local network, but it was still not HTTPS. And using the stack that I'm using for the developer side, it's not real easy to get that running. So I was able to use something like n-grok in this case, and it automatically spun up a reverse proxy back into my network from outside in the internet world, and it gave me an HTTPS URL that I could use. Now it was some randomized set of numbers and letters .ngrok.com, and then I could send that to the HTTPS side. But I was able to test and see the geolocation API stuff working and how it was working, and go make corrections based on the way it was working. And that was super useful to me without having to go spin up a DigitalOcean server, build my application, put it on the server, go install Nginx, install the SSL certificates from Let's Encrypt, and run certbot and all of that stuff just to test something that really only took 20 minutes. So I started looking around for an alternative to n-grok, because n-grok's great, but it's proprietary, it's closed source, and it costs money if you want to actually get a lot of features out of it. Now, I was able to use their free version for the most part and get things to work on it, but it wasn't giving me a real feel for what I was trying to do. There's some great things about n-grok. Please don't misunderstand. It gives you a lot of reports and some other things that you can do, and it kind of records things that happen so you can see certain triggers that are happening. But for me, when I'm just looking for a reverse proxy back into my network, the Go HTTP tunnel is great, and that's what I have here on the screen. I'll put this link in the notes so that you can get to it if you're interested in it. This person here, Mike, he's done a lot of really great work on this thing. I've asked a few questions out here on the issues list. I've answered some of my own questions after I realized I was asking a dumb question. But I've also answered some other people's questions, so hopefully I'm helping them as well. I really like what he's doing. I'm trying to contribute to him monetarily to help support this project so that he can continue development on it. Pretty excited about it. I contributed through the actual README down here, so there's some really good information on how to get this set up. You can go get it and you can run it in Go if you want to, but he also has pre-built binaries that you can go grab and actually install on your system and run both the server and the client side. It's super easy to get going. He tells you how to build the certificates that you need. Now these are self-signed certificates, so you will get the actual self-signed certificate warning when you go to it through your browser. But you can do it on the server side and on the client side, so it's really easy. This command right here in the terminal just does this for you and creates those certificates that you need on each side. As you continue down, he's got more instructions on different places where you need to set these up and what folder structure you need to do. So we'll go through that here in the video that I'm making. And then this command here to kind of start all of your different tunnels. So with one client install, you can actually run multiple servers on a single machine and set this up to actually point to all those different servers from different URLs or subdomains on a single domain. So that's pretty awesome, because I can set up multiple projects that I'm working on in developer mode and then point to those for my demo site on GitHub, and you can access those things from GitHub if you're interested in the work that I'm doing. So it's really great. So as you move down, I actually contributed down here the part to run this as a service. Now I did this on Ubuntu. It's really using systemd, so it doesn't matter what you're using. If you're using systemd, the instructions are going to be pretty much the same. But this lets it run as a service, so I actually run it out there on a DigitalOcean server running Ubuntu. the server side runs as a service, and it just, no matter if I reboot, whatever, it comes back up. If it crashes, it comes back up. So I've got simple instructions to follow to get that set up. And you can actually follow these same things to run it as a service on your client as well. So I just want to go through kind of how this works and how to make it work. But, you know, originally, I'm sorry for all the scrolling here. If you'll actually go out and just get his release binaries, you can see the version numbers, and then you can look for the version that you need for your software set. So if you're running on AMD 64 or, you know, anything like that, you can go down here and find the right version that you need and pull that down directly. You don't have to go build it from Go, and you don't have to build it from code if you don't want to. Of course, if you're a Go developer and you want to add to this project, that's awesome. You should definitely go do that. All right, I've got some terminals opened up here. I'm going to go over to DigitalOcean, and we're going to create a droplet. So when you want to do that, you won't come to this screen initially. You'll come to a home screen, but you just click up here on Create and then select Droplet. So this is what they call their virtual servers. I'm going to pick Ubuntu. That's perfectly fine for what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to leave it on this standard system. They have some new stuff here that they offer, which is awesome. So this just popped up. Now they always default you to the $40 a month, but you can actually click to the left and just click on the $10 a month. This would probably even run on the $5 a month server, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the 10. I'm going to scroll down, and I don't need backups because I'm going to destroy this server afterwards, but if you're using this for production, you might want to enable backups. I'm going to leave it on New York. Again, pick the place that's geographically closest to you. We'll keep going down, and then we've got authentication, so we can use SSH keys or we can use a one-time password. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to use my SSH key right here, and we'll continue down, and we're going to give this a name. So I'm going to call this opensourceisawesome.com. This is the name of a domain that I own. I'll continue down, and everything else is set, so I'm just going to click on Create Droplet. This won't take very long. Again, it goes out and it provisions the space that it needs. It runs SSDs, so you get a lot of speed. They have amazing bandwidth, which makes it really great as far as up speed, down speed time, so that's awesome. And you can see as it provisions, it goes out and it's going to complete here in just a second. And we're pretty much done. It's finishing up, and it's going to give us an IP address here in just a second when it gets it all provisioned out. And here we go. We've got our IP address, so I'm just going to click on copy. I'm going to go back to my terminals here. I'm going to use this one up in the upper right for my server. So I'm going to go to, and actually, all right, I'm going to go to hover.com and log in. This is the provider that I use for a lot of my domains now. So I'm just going to do sign in, and I'm going to use Bitwarden to get my credentials. And you see it fills them in for me. And here are my domains. So I'm going to go down here to opensourceisawesome.com and click on it. And then I'm going to go up here to DNS, and right here I want to add a simple DNS entry for opensourceisawesome.com. So here you can see the IP address that's actually assigned by Hover. That's really not the one that I want it to be. So I'm going to change that, and first I'm going to change this record for the @ to be the IP address that I set up a while ago. So I'm just going to go to Edit, and I copied that IP address, so I'm just going to paste it in here. I'm going to change that. And then I'm going to go add a DNS record so that whenever I put in any subdomain, when I register a subdomain here in a little bit for a server that I want to reverse proxy to, I can give it any subdomain name of opensourceisawesome.com. So my location.opensourceisawesome.com, and I can tell it where to send that traffic to. So I want to make this the A record, and I want the IP address to be what I already have in the @ record. And I'm going to change that to 5 minutes, and then I'm just going to make this the asterisk. So this says any subdomain .opensourceisawesome.com will forward to this IP address. So I'm going to hit that. Now we can see our star record is in there. We've got our @ record in here. Those should be getting updated in the next few minutes. And then we can get those to point to the different locations that we want. Alright, so here we are. We're back on the Go HTTP tunnel site. So what I want to do is, from that server, so I'm just going to do SSH and it's root by default. I'm just going to paste in that IP address right now to get things going. We'll give that a little time for the DNS update to happen. First, you always want to update and upgrade the server just in case, because it's probably an older image and there might be a lot of updates that are ready. So we'll do sudo apt update and then ampersand ampersand sudo apt upgrade -y, which tells it yes, just do it. So it's going to go out, it's going to grab all of the new information that's available out there for the Ubuntu 18.04 server, and then it's going to run through the actual upgrade process by going out and grabbing those updates, downloading them, and packaging them and installing them. It's usually pretty fast. Depending on how old the image is, there may be a couple of prompts that happen while it's running this upgrade process, and it depends on the prompt as to the action you take, but normally you would just hit OK and let it continue the way that it is. You don't need to make any changes, but we'll see what the prompts are when they pop up, if there are any. So this is one of those prompts where I would say absolutely you just want to hit tab to get to the OK button and hit enter, and then it prompts you a second time, do the same thing, tab to get to the OK button, hit enter, and it's done. So what I'm going to do is just reboot the server to make sure all of the changes take effect here. So sudo reboot. It's going to knock me out of that server for a minute, and then we'll go back in here in just a second. So I'm back in, and this time I was able to actually get in through using the SSH root at opensourceisawesome.com, which is awesome. That's what I wanted. I'm going to clear this off the screen. Once you're in your server, it's all set up, you've updated it and upgraded it. It's pretty simple. You're going to go to this page where we clicked in to get to the binaries, and I want to find the Linux AMD 64 binary, which is right here. I'm just going to right click on it, and I'm going to copy the link location, or the link address. I'm going to go back to my terminal server, or my terminals here, and on the server side I'm going to say wget, which is just webget. I'm going to paste in that actual location of that file, and then it's going to go get it and download it, which it did really quickly. So now if I do an ls, I can see that I have that tar.gz file in there. So the way that this is a zipped file, so the way you unzip this is do tar-xvzf, like X-ray Victor Zebra Frank, and then that file name. So I'm just going to start with tun and hit tab. It's the only file there, so it'll autocomplete for me. And I'm going to let it unzip that, and you see I get two things now. So I have the zip file, which I can remove. So now when I list out the files, I have two application files. One is tunnel, that's for the client, and the other is tunnel D, that's for the server. So I'm going to rm tunnel. So now if I list them out, I have just the server piece. So this is just the server application. So we've got that. So in the last minute, we've gone and pulled down the zip file, unzipped it, got rid of the extraneous files, and we're left with tunnel D. We'll go back to the main site here. We're going to come down to this instruction on how to create our server keys. So we're just going to copy this little line of code. It's really easy. Now, if you're on Linux, just highlight it, leave it highlighted, come back to your terminal, and then middle click or click on the actual mouse wheel on your mouse, and it will just paste in there the last thing you highlighted. So this is going to go make a request for these certificates and this key. Once it starts the request, it's going to want some information. So you do US, and then it wants to know the state, and it wants to know the city that you're in. So just fill this out. It's a simple form, and you can just put this as dev. It doesn't matter what you put for the organization name, organizational unit name. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want. Common name. So this is the name of your server in this case. So I'm going to put opensourceisawesome.com, and my email address. And that's it. So it's done. Now if I ls, I have these three files. Now I have the tunnel D application, the server certificate, and the server key. So what I want to do is actually make a directory called .tunneld. So that's a hidden directory. So if I do ls, you don't see it. But if I do ls-al, you can see there's actually quite a few hidden there are actually quite a few hidden directories here. But you can see that one of them is tunnel D. So now I want to move my server.crt and server.key file into that hidden directory. So I'm going to do mv server.star, since they both start with server dot, that's fine. Star tells it anything that starts with server we're going to move into /tunnel /tunneld. Now if I do an ls again, you see it's back to just having the tunneld application in that folder. In order to start the server, I have to do /tunneld to tell it to use the application -tls crt /tunneld /server.crt -tls key /tunneld /server.key. So this is my command to start the tunnel service. We're going to see if I typed it correctly. And we did. So you get the little information here, and it says go HTTP tunnel. And it kind of tells you action start, and then start HTTP with the address 443, HTTPS, and HTTP with 80. So this tells me that this thing's running, and it tells me it's running on port 5223. Alright, so we did this. This took a little longer because I was explaining, but this literally took me about 3 minutes. It did not take that long to do. And it's set and it's ready. So on my client now, I'm also going to go download that same application. So I'm going to go back to the downloads page, and again I'm running Linux AMD 64, but if you were running Windows you would go grab that version. If you're running a Raspberry Pi, you'd grab the ARM version. If you're running BSD, you'd grab that version. So just pay attention to which version you're grabbing, but I'm running Linux 64 on my client machine as well, so I'm just going to say copy link address again. And then in my terminal here, I'm gonna move into downloads just to put this in a place where I know I want it. I'm gonna do wget, and then I'm gonna paste that URL in there. It's gonna go get it, and it's done. So I'm gonna move that file over to my home directory, which you just do ~/ if you want your home directory. I'm gonna hit CD to go back to my home directory. And then I'm going to unzip that file, tar-xvzf tunnel. There it is. It got them both, and I have the tunnel application. So I'm going to create a file, a folder called make directory.tunnel2. I'm going to move tunnel into .tunnel2, CD into that folder, and I'll show you that it's there. Now I need to create my client certificates. So we'll go back to the main page and we'll just highlight this one above it. Go back to my terminal, paste that in there, and it's going to generate those things. We're going to fill out the same information. And we're done. So now if we list it out, we can see we have our client cert, our client key, and our tunnel application. The last thing we need to do is make a file called tunnel.yaml. And if you're not sure how this should be formatted, you can go again back to the main page from GitHub. Scroll way down here, and you'll see the configuration section. And you just want to highlight and copy this section right here. Go back into your file where you're editing it and paste. So the spacing is off, okay? You'll have to fix this spacing in order for this to work. So what you need is tunnel needs to be over. Web UI needs to be over, so you're only 2 spaces off. Proto needs to be 4 spaces. ADDR needs to be 4 spaces. Auth, if you're going to use it, needs to be 4 spaces. Host needs to be 4 spaces. So for now, I'm not going to use the SSH part, but you can set up SSH as well by setting up a protocol for TCP. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use the web UI authorization side. I'm also not going to use the authentication, but you can if you want to. It's basic authentication through HTTP. It's better than nothing, but it's not really a good way to secure your site if that's what you're trying to do. So now I'm going to just save what I have so that I don't lose that little bit of change. And here where it says server IP, I actually have to put in the address or the IP of the server. So it's opensourceisawesome.com :5223. My protocol, I'm going to leave HTTP. The address is localhost 3000, in this case is what it's going to be. I know this because I run this local server that I'm going to set up in just a minute. And then this host is going to be opensourceisawesome.com. So now I can put any subdomain in front of this that I want. So in this case, I'm going to run a little program that I call hostup. So I'm going to just call it hostup.opensourceisawesome.com. So now when I try to navigate to hostup.opensourceisawesome.com, it will bring me back to this machine where I'm running that server. So I'm going to save this again. I'm going to quit out of it. Okay, so I save, I close out, I've got my tunnel.yaml file created. Now I can start my client. So I'm going to move this back down here where you can kind of see what's happening in the background on the tunnel. So I'll start up my client so you can see what's happening in the background there on the tunnel. So we'll do /tunnel space --config /tunnel.yaml start-all. Now the start all means it's going to start all of the tunnels that you have configured in that YAML file, because you can configure multiple tunnels, and I'll show you that in a minute. But for now we've only got one, so we can use start all, or we can use the name that we gave it to start it, which would be web UI by default, I believe. So I'm going to use start all. Okay, so when I tried to do that, I have a mistake in my YAML file. Remember, I said it's very important on the spacing. So actually tunnels has to be all the way to the left, then web UI, then we can have these. So this web UI, this is just the name of this specific tunnel, and you can add multiple tunnels by adding a new name here. So you can actually do as many tunnels as you want in a single YAML file and send it to different servers you might be running on your local machine. But in this case we're only doing the one, so we'll just leave it, and you can name that really whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it at web UI for now, but we'll change it here in a little bit and do both. So I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to save and exit. We'll clear up that command here and we'll try this again. And you see what happens here. So it connects and it says here's where it's running locally. And it tells you here's the IP address where the handshake happened, and you can see what's going on. And back here you can also see that there was a subscription that happened on the server, so the server is logging this information to the terminal as it runs. The problem that we have with this, the way that I'm running it right now, is that it's not running as a service. So if I close out of this terminal, and it's going to disconnect me from the server, and it's going to kill this tunnel that's running. So this is how you'd run it if you wanted to run it temporarily and be connected. So I'm going to open up another tab, and I'm going to open up another terminal window. So stand by. We're going to pull that over, and I'm going to go into this application that I've created, and I'm going to run it, and it's going to start up a server that runs on localhost port 3000. Once that gets started, then I'll show you that I can go both through localhost to get to it, as well as through this tunnel where it's going to go out to the internet and get routed back to me. Anyone could actually go to it while it's running. So it's starting up. I'm going to go to localhost 3000, and it brings you to the page. I'm already signed in. Normally it would bring me to the login page, but I'm already signed in, and I've got this thing that checks my different web servers, my web pages. So it goes out and makes an HTTP call, and it says, is it up? Yes. Can I find it? Do I get a valid response back? And it tells me if it's up or down. And then in the background it also pings it every once in a while. Now on my development server I've got it set for 2 minutes, and I've got this set as 10 sites per user, so you can go and configure all of this stuff inside the configuration that I have set up over here. I have some different dashboards and things, so whenever you're in here you can click and you'll get all of the ping information that it's run recently. And like right here where I see these ping times got a little bit longer than normal, I can highlight and zoom in a little bit, and then I'm just interested in maybe this section right here. Then you can just go back to it. You can close out of it. I've got some dashboards, user dash, and then I've got an admin dash down here that's a little different. So if I click, I can see my different sites that are up So total and site and up are going to be the same. If I had any down, you'd be able to see those, but right now it's going to clear it. And the users, and you can take actions from here just by clicking. So it's a useful little website that I use and run, open source of course, and it's out there on GitHub. So this is hitting it from localhost. So now we'll open up one more tab and we'll actually go to hostup.opensourceisawesome.com. Oh, maybe not. There we go. I don't know why it wasn't forwarding that first time, but here we go. Now we're getting it to forward to the right place. Now as I come into it from outside, so see here it came just logged right in. Here it wants me to sign in. That's fine. So email and we're logged in. So you see the same exact screen no matter which way you go. Of course this one has some UI issues whenever it gets a refresh of data for some reason. But I can go here and I can navigate to that admin menu just like before. Now I'm seeing what it looks like from the outside internet versus my local host, and I can just be sure that everything seems to be working. There could be reasons, like for instance when you're using geolocation API. Alright, we're going to go back to our terminal here. I'm going to leave that one running. I'm going to open up another one and I'm going to do a different application that I have. So cd trivia. Oops, get out of this directory. And I'm going to run this application on a different port. So we're going to let that application start up, and in the meantime we need to go change our YAML file. So we're going to go edit this file and we're going to add trivia with the protocol HTTP again, an address, local host, and this I did 4021, and finally the host, we'll just call it trivia.opensourceisawesome.com, and then we will save and exit. Now because I have two sites in there that I want to be pointing back to my home network, I can just do this command again with start all, and it's going to start both of them. So you can see here localhost 4021 and localhost 3000 both start up, and they each have their own URLs that I'll point to. So we'll just jump in and see if those are running like we expect. So first just localhost 4021, and there's my trivia game. And then we'll go here to trivia.opensourceisawesome.com. And again, this should point right back to my home server after it goes out there, and it does. Of course, it wants me to log in this case. Oops, doesn't like that. There we go. So we're logged in and we can see it the same on both tabs. This is Bitwarden wanting to remember my credentials, but I'm not going to keep it long enough for it to remember them. But there you go. When I switch tabs, you can see it's exactly the same page. It's just getting to it through two different methods. Alright, we're going to go back to our terminals now, and I'm going to kill that. So when you see that it's killed and I'm not running the actual thing, if I try to refresh this out there on the one that's going from the internet, it's going to say that it's not registered, and it's not. So that's what we expect. And this one also is not registered. If I open this back up and I give it that same command, but in this case I say start web UI instead of start all, it's only going to start the one for host up. So if I come back over here where I had my trivia game and refresh, you see it's still not registered, but if I come back to my host up, it's going to refresh, and here we are back at host up. So you can selectively start these reverse proxies once you've got them set up, even though they're set up in the same YAML file, which is pretty nice. Keeps from having to set up multiple YAML files and multiple spaces to do this, and starting the command multiple times. You can just start up one or the other or all of them whenever you're ready to do that. So if we go back to our terminal, I can kill that, nothing's going to run now. I can kill this and nothing's going to run. I really like this application, Go HTTP Tunnel. It's go-http-tunnel. It's out there on GitHub. I will have the link in the description below. It's really great. It's really easy to set up. I added a little bit to the README to make it so you could run it as a systemd service, which is excellent. So I hope you'll get out there and check it out. And if you use it, support it. You know, if you've got $1, give them $1. That's more than zero. If you've got $100, great. If you can give them $100, that's awesome, because that supports the people who start these projects. If you want to support them in different ways, that's great. If you're a developer and you know Go, get in there and help them out. Make some changes, make some updates. Look at some of the requests that people have made for other features and do some pull requests. Anything you can. But I really like this project. I hope you will too, and I hope you'll get a lot out of it. That's it for this week. If you like this video, like and subscribe and leave me some constructive criticism so I can get better and provide you with more information in the future, and I'll talk to you next time.